Good morning, everyone. Shall we start our class? The last class we discussed DNS class, and we seen DNS stands domain naming service, and you can say domain naming system. And the last class we seen DNS is used for to resolve resolution of name to IP addresses and resolution of IP address to name. And DNS also we require in the LAN to assign the name to the server, and each and every name, right? To each and every server we require unique name, and this name we are assigning by the help of DNS service. Example zoom.com, or we can give like this mcsc.zoom.com, and each and every domain name is separated by dot. Okay. And the last class we seen whatever data we are storing in DNS server, that is called zones, right? Whatever data we are storing in DNS server, that is called zones. And zone is a DNS database, and zones are running by the help of records here. And we have two types of zones. One is forward lookup zone, and one is a reverse lookup zone. And forward lookup zone is resolving the host name to IP address, and reverse lookup zone resolving IP address to host name, right? But the zones are working by the help of records. And the last class we seen SO record, start of authority, we seen NS record, we seen host record, we seen alias record. In the last class we seen pointer record, and we seen MX record, mail exchange record, and we seen service record, that is called SRV record also here, right? And the last class we seen in DNS server we have types of zones. Actually we have two types, forward and reverse. In forward we can create 4 types of zone, in reverse also we can create 4 types of zone. And the last class we seen what is standard primary zone, and how to create the standard primary zone in forward lookup zone, and how to create the standard primary zone in reverse lookup zone, right? So whenever you want to register the website information in DNS server or in ISP DNS server, we have to create standard primary zone. And standard primary zone is having read and write option. We can create the inside the zone, we can create the records, we can delete the records, and we can modify the record. And the last class we seen the practical how to install the DNS service. In the last class we seen how to create the standard primary zone in forward lookup zone with host and alias record, and we seen how to create the standard primary zone reverse lookup zone with pointer record. All of you done this practical. Now today we are discussing DNS second class, and today we are discussing what is secondary zone, what is stub zone, and what is active directory integrated primary zone, right? So please copy this slide, then we'll discuss what is secondary zone, when we require stub zone and active directory integrated primary zone also. Is finished, everyone? So the last class we seen the DNS work is job is the DNS job is what, resolving the name to IP and IP address to name. And we seen if you want to register the website information in DNS server, we require standard primary zone with host and alias record. So we'll take the example of the last session. The last class we have we are making one system as a web server. So example, a system 3 is our web server. And in web server, we are hosting the website by the name of yahoo.com. And the IP of the web server is 61.0.0.5. And we want to allow the user to access this website over the internet. So we have to register this website information to ISP DNS server. Now to make this machine as a DNS server, in this machine, first we require operating system. And basically this machine is work group. And we need IP address to this computer. And we are making this machine as a DNS server, so that's why the preferred DNS address should be same, that is 10.1. And in this machine we have to install DNS service to make this machine as a DNS server. And in DNS server we have to create standard primary zone, and that is having read and writable database. So we are creating the standard primary zone by the name of yahoo.com, and in that we have SEO record and we have NS record, but we have to create host record. And host record, we are giving the information host name and the web server IP address, and in alias record we are giving www World Wide Web Dev. Now after that, one of the user, example this is a client, is taking internet line from this ISP. So assume this is a client who is taking the internet line from this ISP, and this ISP will give the IP address to this client, that is example 10.0.0.5, and the preferred DNS address is your ISP DNS server IP, that is 10.0.1. Now after that, the user is going to the browser and the user is requesting for website, that is www.yahoo.com. So once you press enter, right, the request will go to your ISP DNS server, and ISP DNS server resolve the name to IP address, right? It will give the IP of the web server, and by taking this web server IP address, will reach to the web server to access the website. Okay, so assume this website is hosted to this ISP. Okay, and at a time now, this many users want to access this yahoo.com website here. So not at a time, if thousands of users are accessing the yahoo.com website, the request will go to this ISP DNS server or not here, because the website is registered to this ISP DNS server, is called authoritative DNS server. Maybe some of the user is taking internet line from other ISP. Maybe some of the user is taking internet line from this ISP. But anyhow, the request has to come to this ISP, because on this ISP DNS server, the website is registered, is called authoritative. But other ISPs are giving the answer to his clients by using cache, by using forwarder, by using routine server. But anyhow, the request will come to this ISP where the website is registered. So this ISP will allow the user to resolve the website name to IP and IP to name to access, right? But my question is what here? All the users are accessing the website, right, by the help of your DNS server, 10.1 DNS server. But as in one day, the 10.1 DNS server is not working. Suddenly this machine is down, because this is the computer. Computer is an electronic machine. Okay, so we cannot give 100% guarantee 365 days, 24/7 is going to run properly. If this ISP is having only one DNS server, if this DNS server is failed, crash, so not tell me the world users can access yahoo.com website. Web server is working, but DNS server is not resolving the name to IP, so user cannot access the website. Or at a time, if thousands of users is requesting to this DNS server to resolve the name to IP, then we have one more problem, that is called load balancing problem. Some of the user is getting answer very fast, This DNS server resolving the name to IP address and IP to name very fast. So that user can reach to web server to access the site very fast here. Some of the user is getting answer slow. So still that user can access, but accessing is what here? Slow there. Some of the user is not getting answer from DNS server, is working, but DNS server is busy there, right? So that user cannot access the site. So the microservice saying to avoid these two problems. One is load balancing problem and one is a failover, right? So then microservice saying you have to configure one backup DNS server. You have to configure one backup. So every ISP has to maintain two DNS servers, one primary and one backup. But if you want to make primary DNS server, you have to create standard primary zone. By the help of standard primary zone, I can make that machine as a primary DNS server. It's called master also, and is having read and write option. But if you want to make backup DNS server, we require secondary zone. So by using secondary zones, I can make one system as a backup DNS server. But remember here, the backup DNS server is having only one option. That is what here? Read only option. So in backup DNS server, we are not having read and write option. So it means all the records has to be updated from primary to backup server, secondary server. Like last class, we discussed DC and RODC server. All the accounts will update from DC to RODC, but there is no replication from RODC to DC. The same way, in the DNS server, wherever you're creating standard primary zone, that is called primary DNS server, is having read and write option. And wherever you're creating standard secondary zone, that is called backup DNS server, and the backup DNS server zones are having read only option there. Okay. So this ISP require one backup DNS server here to avoid load balancing problem, to avoid failover problem here. So to make backup DNS server, what are the requirements here? The requirements are we require one machine first, right? I want to make system 2 is a backup DNS server. In this machine, we require operating system, install the server OS, and basically this machine is what? Work group. Keep it like this, okay? Then next is what? We require IP address. IP address should be unique. So I'm giving the IP address 10.0.2. And preferred DNS address should be same. Because whenever you are making primary DNS server or whenever you're making backup DNS server, IP address and preference address should be same. But especially when you're making backup DNS server, we require this address. Which address? Alternate. And alternate DNS address is not required in primary DNS server. Alternate DNS server we require in backup DNS server. And in backup DNS server, alternate DNS address is your primary DNS server IP address. Your primary DNS server IP will become alternate DNS for this, my backup DNS server. So now in this machine, install the DNS service. So once install the DNS service, this machine is called DNS server. But I want to make this DNS server as a backup DNS server. So in this DNS server, create the zones. But when you're creating the zone, what we have to select? We have to select primary or we have to select secondary. We have to select the secondary here, right? So we have to select the secondary to make this machine as a backup DNS server. But remember here, estimate in this ISP on 10.1 ISP, nearly 10 companies has registered the website. 10 companies, example Yahoo, Gmail, MSN, Microsoft, Rediff, Outlook, like this. 10 company has registered the website here, right? So 10 zones are there in primary DNS server. So in backup DNS server also we have to create 10 zones here. But when you're creating the secondary zone, once you click next, in the next page is asking zone name there. It's asking what here? Zone name. So we have to type the zone name. So zone name should be a new name or existing name here. Existing name. So I'm creating a backup zone for Yahoo, right? Secondary zone for Yahoo. So we have to give the zone name is what here? Yahoo.com, and spelling should be correct there. Okay. Now tell me the secondary zone is having what type of option? Read only option or read and writable option? Read only database you can say. So in secondary zones, we cannot create the records, we cannot delete the records, we cannot modify. So all the record has to be updated from primary DNS server to backup DNS server, secondary DNS server. But remember here, the primary DNS server is having any good knowledge on which IP, on which machine your secondary server, your backup DNS server is running, or which zone records you want to update from primary DNS server to secondary DNS server. So first time, this process we have to do manually. But next onwards or next movement onwards, this updates will be automatic here, right? So now what we have to do to update all the records from primary DNS server to secondary DNS server, we have to do manual process, and always the record has to be updated from primary to secondary. So as administrator, go to the primary DNS server, right click on yahoo.com zone and go to the properties, right? In properties, we have one option. That option is called zone transfers. In zone transfers, we have to give the IP address of backup DNS server. We have to give the IP address of backup DNS server. So what is the backup DNS server IP address? 10.0.0.2 we have to give, right? Then come back to the backup DNS server and refresh the yahoo.com zone. Once you refresh the yahoo.com zone, automatically all the records of yahoo.com primary zone, right? All the records of yahoo.com primary zone will update to yahoo.com secondary zone. So now tell me, how many records will update from yahoo.com primary zone to yahoo.com secondary zone? How many records? Count and give the answer. How many records? 4 records or 1 record or 2 records? How many records? 4 records. We have SEO record, we have NS record, we have host record, we have alias record. So all these 4 records will update automatically here. Okay. So just we have to refresh. So now your primary DNS server is having web server information. Your backup DNS server also is having web server information here, right? Now next day, if I want to add the new record or modify the records or change the records, so where we have to do it? Changes, modifications. We have to do in secondary DNS server or primary DNS server? Primary. So once you add the 5th record, example. So now tell me, in primary zone, I created the 5th record in yahoo.com primary zone. Now tell me, to update this 5th record to yahoo.com secondary zone, again we have to go to zone transfer? No need. Just refresh. Come to yahoo.com secondary zone and refresh. Once you refresh, the 5th record automatically will update. So only first time we have to do zone transfer to update the record from primary DNS server to secondary DNS server, right? Now we have 2 DNS servers. One is Yahoo, one is 10.1 primary DNS server, one is 10.2 backup DNS server, right? Now go to the client machine. The client is having only information of primary DNS server. Tell to the client on which machine IP your backup DNS server is running, and we have to give that information by using alternate DNS address, and alternate DNS address is our backup DNS server IP 10.0.2. So now next day when the user is typing www.yahoo.com, once you press enter, the client will try to request to send the request to primary DNS server. If the primary DNS server is giving answer, that is good. And some of the user is taking the some of the user primary DNS server now is busier. So now when the user typing www.yahoo.com, the request will go to backup DNS server, and backup DNS server also is having yahoo.com web server information. Backup DNS server resolve the name to IP, and by taking this IP will reach to web server to access the site or not. So it means some of the user accessing yahoo.com website by using primary DNS server, some of the user accessing yahoo.com by using backup DNS server, by using secondary DNS server, right? Not tell me accessing is fast or slow here. Fast. We are avoiding the load balancing problem by using backup DNS server. So in future, assume it one day, right? Now my primary DNS server power cable has burned and this machine is down. I'm not saying machine is burned, power cable has burned, backside power cable is there, power cable has burned. So not only once the power cable is burned, this machine can be run? No. And right now today I'm not having new power cable. Maybe I will go tomorrow, right, next day to market to buy the new power cable, and I will plug and then will up. So now today my primary DNS server is down. Now tell me, still my users, world users, can access yahoo.com website or not here? Yes, by the help of backup DNS server. Backup DNS server also is having my yahoo.com web server information, right? So still we can allow it. So by the help of secondary DNS server, backup DNS server, we are avoiding the load balancing problem, we are avoiding the failover. Okay, but one moment, I have one question. Estimate my primary DNS server power cable has burned and this machine is down. My primary DNS server is not working. I'm giving the service by using backup DNS server, is resolving the name to IP. But now my boss is coming, is asking, sir, please do some changes in yahoo.com zone, sir. Add the new records, delete the records, modify the records. Can we do it? No. Why? Because today my primary DNS server is not working and I'm running the network, I'm serving the services by the help of backup DNS server. So tell to your boss, sir, today my primary DNS server is not running, sir, right? So I'm running the service, I'm giving the services to my user by using backup DNS server, and the backup DNS server is secondary DNS server. Secondary is having read-only option. So today I cannot do any changes, but wait for one day. Tomorrow I will go to the market, I will brought the new power cable, I will plug to my primary DNS server, I will up, and then tomorrow I will do some changes in primary zone. Whatever changes you are saying, I will do it, but not today, next day. Tomorrow I will do it, right? But your boss is saying, sir, we cannot wait, sir. We have some requirement, do it now. Then what we can do? We can do one thing, right? Right now in secondary DNS server, we cannot do any changes, and primary DNS server is what? Not working today. But you can do one thing, you can convert this secondary zone to primary. You can convert this secondary zone to primary. As an administrator, we can convert. But remember here, when you're converting secondary zone to primary zone, is not asking any question on which IP your primary zone is running, right? Easily, as an admin, we can convert from secondary zone to primary. So once you convert the secondary zone to primary, now this 10.2 yahoo.com zone is acting as a primary, and primary is having read and option. Can we add new records here? Yes, we can do it, right? But example, next day you went to the market and you brought the new power cable, and you plug to your system 1 10.1 primary DNS server, and this machine is up. This machine is up. So now tell me, in my network, how many yahoo.com primary zones are running? 2. One is on 10.1, one is on 10.2. Can I keep like this? Can I serve the services to my clients, to my users? Yes or no? Yes, we can do it. If 10.1 primary DNS server is not giving answer, 10.2 primary DNS server will give the answer. If the 10.2 primary is not giving the answer, 10.1 primary DNS server will give the answer. I can keep like this, I can serve the services. But here the problem is what? Updates. The updates will not take place from primary to primary. Update will take place only from primary to secondary. So next day your boss is coming, he's saying, sir, our 10.1 system 1 machine is up, sir. That is the primary DNS server. Make the 10.2 yahoo.com zone again back to secondary. Again back to secondary. Can we do it? Yes. We can convert primary zone, 10.2 primary zone, yahoo.com primary zone to again secondary. We can convert. But remember here, it is asking the question here. When you're converting from primary to secondary, is asking the question, sir, on which IP your existing primary is running. And that IP we have to give. That is what 10.0.0.1 we have to give. And if it is correct, if it is running, so this zone will be converted from primary to secondary. So it means in future, easily we can convert the zones from secondary to primary and primary to secondary. This option is available for you. Okay, this one. So today we'll see the first lab, how to create standard secondary zone. So write down the heading of our first lab today, creating standard secondary zone. In brackets write down backup DNS server. In brackets write down backup DNS server. So by using this zone, we can make that machine as a backup DNS server. But before creating standard secondary zones, first we require standard primary zones or not here. If we have primary zones, then only we can go for secondary zones. So for today's session, how many machines we require in the lab? At least we require 2. System 1, we are making primary DNS server, and system 2, we are making backup DNS server. And already we know how to make system 1 as a primary DNS server. And the last class we seen, to make primary DNS server, this machine IP address and preference address should be same. And in this machine we require DNS service to make this machine as a DNS server. And we have to create a standard primary zone with host and alias record. We done this practical. Okay, so once again, when you go to the lab, you have to start once again the practical with creating standard primary zone with host and alias record. So please write down the first point. In system 1 primary DNS server, in system 1 primary DNS server, create the standard primary zones. In system 1 primary DNS server, create the standard primary zone. In system 1 primary DNS server, create the standard primary zone. Okay, next point write down, with host and alias record. Create the standard primary zones with host and alias record. Example, yahoo.com and gmail.com zone. Example, yahoo.com and gmail.com zone. And already we done this practical the last session, right? How to create the zones and how to create the host record and alias records. Once again, I'm not repeating all the steps here, but you have to guide to me. I will do it first here. So when you go to the lab, you have to start with creating standard primary zone. So this is my system 1 machine. I have to log in as a administrator. So I want to make this machine as a primary DNS server. Make sure in this machine IP address and preference address should be same. So my machine is 2012 operating system machine. This is my system 1. I want to make this machine as a primary DNS server. And in this machine, check the IP address. And we require always on servers, we require static IP, and IP and preference address should be same, and IP is 10.0.1. Preference address is same, 10.0.1. This is the primary DNS server. Okay. Now in this machine, we have to install DNS service to make this machine as a DNS server here. So you can see here, if I go to the administrative tools, my server manager is taking some time here, and the last session we added the DNS service here. Okay, and we know how to add that. Now open the DNS service, and we have to create the zones here. Now this DNS service is working in system 1. In forward lookup zones, we have to create some zones here. So right click on forward lookup zone, new zone, then click on next, and we want primary zone, but which one? Standard primary. So select primary zone, uncheck the box, store the zone in Active Directory, click next, and the zone name is here yahoo.com. Click next, and this is the file which is going to store in DNS database. Next, we have to select allow both option. Next, finish. One zone is created, yahoo.com. Okay, but in that we require host and alias record. So now we have to right click on yahoo.com, standard primary zone, new host, and here we have to give the web server system name and web server IP address. But right now today I'm not having separate web server, so assume the system 1 is my web server. So I'm giving here system host name is system 1 and IP address is 10.0.1. But the last class we not discuss about this one, but we discuss about this record, that is PTR, means pointer record. Now when we require pointer record, where we require pointer record? When we are creating reverse lookup zone, and when you want to allow to resolve the IP address to name, we require pointer record. Now see here, what is the use of this option? If I check this box, if I click add host, in forward lookup zone, one host record will create, and automatically in reverse lookup zone, one pointer record will create. So it means in single shot, I'm creating two records, host and pointer record here, right? But first we require, before checking this one, in reverse lookup zone, we require reverse lookup zone, standard primary zone. Like last class, we created 10.0.0, we require. Then we have to check this box. But right now I'm not having reverse lookup zone, so I'm not going to this option here. I don't want. Now click on add host, click on OK, done. Host record is created. But we are allowing the user to access the website by alias name, but not by host name here. So we have to create alias record, right click on yahoo.com zone, new alias, and alias name is standard name www. Then fully qualified domain name is what? system1.yahoo.com. So it means whenever as a user you're typing www.yahoo.com, the request is going to system1.yahoo.com. So click on OK. One host zone, yahoo.com, standard primary zone is created with host alias. So like this, I'm creating one more zone, new zone, and standard primary zone, and this company is different one, and we are registering the website by the name of gmail.com. Next, next, select allow both, next, and finish. In that we require host and alias record, and assume Gmail also is running on system 1, but actually we have to give the web server name, web server IP here, and the IP address is 10.0.1. Click on add host, OK, done, and create the alias record www, and fully qualified domain name is what? system1.gmail.com. Click OK. So you can see here in system 1 primary DNS server, we have two primary zones. One is yahoo.com, standard primary zone with host alias. One is a gmail.com with host and alias. Now we have to make backup server. So we have to go to the system 2 to make this machine as a backup DNS server. So please write down. Next point, in system 2 server, login as administrator. In system 2 server, login as a administrator. Next point, write down, assign the IP address and preferred DNS address should be same. Assign the IP address and prefer DNS address should be same. And alternate DNS address is primary DNS, and alternate DNS address is primary DNS server IP address, and alternate DNS address is primary DNS server IP address. So your primary DNS server IP will become what here? Alternate. Then write down next line. Install the DNS service. Install the DNS service. And already we know, we done the last session. We know how to install the DNS service. Install the DNS service. Okay. Now we'll complete this one. Then we'll create the standard secondary zone here. So this is my system 1 primary DNS server. I have to go to system 2. So this is my system 2 computer. So if I logged as administrator, if I right click on computer icon, if I go to the properties, check the information. In this machine, we have server operating system 2012, and this machine is my system 2, right? Now we have to check the IP also. Right click on network icon, go to the properties, click on change adapter settings. Right click on Ethernet, click on properties, select IPv4, click on properties, and here the IP should be like this: IP address 10.0.2, and preferred DNS address should be same, and alternate DNS address is primary DNS server IP, that is 10.0.1. Then click on OK and click on close, right? So like this we have to give. Next we have to install DNS service. So we have to go to server manager console, and by using address and features we have to add the DNS service, and we know, and you can see the last session, the last class, we installed the DNS service. So in the list we have DNS service. If you go to the tools here, you can find we have DNS service. So once you open the DNS service, so you can see this DNS service is working in which machine? In system 2. And if you expand the system name, if you expand the forward lookup zone, you can see right now there is no zones, but here we want to create standard secondary zone. So please write down the next point. In system 2 server, open the DNS service. In system 2 server, open the DNS service. In system 2 server, open the DNS service. Next point, write down expand the system name SYS2. Expand the system name SYS2. The next point, write down right click on forward lookup zone and click on new zone. Right click on forward lookup zone and click on new zone, and click on next. Right click on forward lookup zone and click on new zone and click on next. Now once you click new zone, one new page will open, and this page is a welcome page. Just we have to click on next. So once you click next here, in next page you can see here we have 3 options: primary zone, secondary zone, and stub zone. And active directory into primary zone option is not available, okay, because in this machine active directory is not there. So now tell me this time which type of zone I have to select: primary, secondary, or stub? We have to go for secondary to make backup DNS server. So write down select secondary zone and click next. Select secondary zone and click on next. So once I click next here, in next page what is asking zone name. So now tell me we have to give the new name or existing name? Existing. And remember here in 10.1 primary DNS server we have nearly 10 zones, different company 10 zones. So at a time 10 secondary zones we cannot create, because at a time we cannot create 10 primary zones in single shot. One by one we are creating zone with host alias, zone with host alias. The same thing, one by one we have to create secondary zone, okay, and update it. So is asking the zone name, we have to give existing name here. I am creating this time first yahoo.com secondary zone, then I will go for gmail.com secondary zone. So write down zone name dash yahoo.com and click on next. Zone name dash yahoo.com and click on next. Now observe here, once I click next, what is asking here? Once I click next, is asking the question, sir, where is master DNS server? Master means primary DNS server. So on which IP your master zone, primary zone is running? The DNS server IP we have to give here. So please write down, type the master DNS server IP address. Type the master DNS server IP address. Now tell me what I have to type here. 10.0.0.1. So write down dash 10.0.0.1. Type the master DNS server IP address dash 10.0.0.1 and click on validate. Click on validate, it will accept it. Click on validate, is accepted here. Then write down click next. Click on next and click on finish. Click next and finish. So once you click finish, so successfully your yahoo.com secondary zone is created. So once you click finish, you can see yahoo.com secondary zone. Like this, can we create gmail.com secondary zone? Yes. So same method, same procedure. Right click on forward lookup zone, new zone, next. Type is what? Secondary. Click next. Name is gmail.com. Click next. Master DNS server address is 10.0.0.1. Click on validate, accept it here. Click next, finish. So gmail.com secondary zone is created. But if you expand the forward lookup zone, in that we have yahoo.com secondary zone, Gmail. But go inside the yahoo.com zone and check records are updated or not. In Gmail secondary zone, also you have to check records are updated or not. If the record is updated, then only this zone will work and will serve the service to clients here. So once you select yahoo.com secondary zone, you can see here, I'm getting error here. What is error? Zone not loaded by DNS server. Means the zone's records are not updated from server to primary server to backup server. So that's why you can see here, it is written here, DNS server encounter a problem while attempting to load the zones, and the transfer of the zones data from master server is failed here. Means primary DNS server, right, is not updating the records, because right now the primary DNS server is not having any information which zone, maybe Yahoo, Gmail, MSN, right? So which zone record you want to update to backup server, and master DNS server also is not having any good knowledge on which IP, on which machine your backup server is running here. So first day we have to update the records manually, and these records we have to update from always primary to secondary, and that process is called what here? Zone transfer. So please write down side heading, lab is continue, side heading, zone transfers, underline this one. And remember, always zone transfers we have to do from primary to backup DNS server, secondary DNS server. Zone transfers, underline this one. So zone transfer we have to do from which machine? From secondary server or from primary server? From primary server. So please write down in system 1 primary DNS server, in system 1 primary DNS server, open the DNS service. In system 1 primary DNS server, open the DNS service. Now first decide first which zone records you want to update. I want to update the records of Yahoo here. So please write down, right click on yahoo.com primary zone. Right click on yahoo.com primary zone and click on properties. Right click on yahoo.com primary zone and click on properties. Now once you click properties, one new page will open, and in this page you can see there are so many tabs are there here. We are in yahoo.com zone properties. There are so many tabs are there. But are you finding zone transfer tab here? So write down, select zone transfer tab. Select zone transfers tab. Now once you select this zone transfer tab, you can see there are so many options are there. But here we have to add the backup server IP, and how to add? By using edit. But edit option is not available. How to get this edit option? We have to select only to the following server to get. So write down, select only to the following servers and click on edit. Select only to the following servers and click on edit. Select only to the following servers and click on edit. Now here, once you click edit, one new page will open, and in this page, in this new page, it's saying that you are updating the records of yahoo.com zone, and here is asking IP address of the secondary server. So we have to type IP address of backup server, secondary server, right? So please write down, type the IP address of the secondary server. Type the IP address of the secondary server dash what? 10.0.0.1 or 10.0.2? 10.0.2. But maybe in the lab your IPs are different, that you have to check and you have to give. Okay, so type the IP address of secondary server dash 10.0.0.2. Then write down, click on validate and click on OK. Click on validate and click on OK. Click on validate. Now once you click validate, is accepted here, but don't worry about this error, right? Just leave it. Then click on OK. Then one more time you have to click on OK, or you can click on apply OK also, this one, right? Click on apply, click OK. But you can see it, if you wait for some seconds, it will take your computer name also here. Done. So this is the job of DNS server, resolving the name to IP, IP to name. Okay, now here, once you click apply OK, your job is done. Then write down verification. So verification, where we have to do? In system 2 backup zone. Okay, so please write down, in system 2 backup DNS server. In system 2 backup DNS server, refresh the in system to backup DNS server. In system to backup DNS server, refresh the yahoo.com secondary zone. In system to backup DNS server, refresh the yahoo.com secondary zone and check all the records. In system to backup DNS server, refresh the yahoo.com secondary zone and check all the records here. Okay, so now I'm going to my, this is my system 1, so I'm going to my system 2 backup DNS server, right? And you can see here, this is yahoo.com secondary zone, but if you go to the yahoo.com secondary, still the record is not updated. So what we have to do? Refresh. That is best option. Right click on yahoo.com zone and click on refresh. So once you refresh, are you finding record is updated? But remember here, sometime in the labs or in the real time, when you right click and refresh, the records will not update. So do one thing, 3-4 times refresh, then records will update. But still the record is not updating. So then you have to go to this option. Which option? Transfer from master, right? Then come back and refresh, then records will update. But still after this option also, which option? Transfer from master, record still is not updated. So then do one thing, third option. Third option is what? Restart the DNS service. How to restart? Right click on system name sys2, click on all tasks and click on restart, right? After restarting the service, right click on system name sys2 and click on all tasks, click on restart, and after restart, then refresh the yahoo.com secondary zone and then you will get the records. So now tell me, all the records are updated? Yes. But tell me, in yahoo.com secondary zone, can we create the record? Can we delete the record? Can we modify the records? No, see here, if I right click on this record, if I try to delete option is not there. If I right click on yahoo.com secondary zone, if I go to new host, new alias, that option also is not available. So record has to update from primary DNS server to secondary DNS server. So I'm going to my primary DNS server to check whether the records next onwards, records are updating automatically or not here. So for testing purpose, I'm going to primary DNS server in yahoo.com standard primary zone. I will create new host. This is a dummy record I'm creating here, and I'm giving the name here XYZ, and IP address is 10.0.1. Click on add host. Okay, done. So now tell me, in yahoo.com primary zone, how many records we have? Total 5 records we have, right? Now go to the, and to update this 5th record, again we have to do zone transfer process. No needs, automatically will update. So go to the yahoo.com secondary zone, right, and just refresh this zone. Now once you refresh, are you finding the 5th record is updated? Yes. If you don't want to refresh, just wait for a few seconds or few minutes, then it will be updated automatically then. Okay, so this is called yahoo.com secondary zone here, right? But if you observe here, if you go to the Gmail, the gmail.com secondary zone also is there. But if you open the gmail.com secondary zone, are you finding the zones are updated? The zone records are updated? No. So what we have to do? We have to go for, again, zone transfer. We have to go for zone transfer for gmail.com zone, right, from primary server. So go to the primary DNS server, right click on gmail.com standard primary zone, click on properties, click on select the zone transfer tab, select only to the following servers and click on edit and type the IP address of secondary server, that is 10.0.0.2. Click on validate, click on OK, click on apply and click on OK. Your job is done. Okay, now go to the yahoo.com secondary zone and refresh the gmail.com secondary zone here, right? Sorry, refresh in secondary, in backup DNS server, we have to refresh the gmail.com secondary zone. So right click and refresh. Now once you refresh, see here, record is not updating. So then what we have to do? Transfer from master. So click on transfer from master and wait. Now right click and see here, still refresh option is not there, just we have to wait for a few seconds. Now refresh option is there. Yes, once I refresh, still the record is not updating. Then next what? Restart the DNS service. Now we have to refresh. Still the record is not updating. Everything is good. So once again we'll check in primary DNS server. Right click on gmail.com stand primary zone, properties, zone transfer, Yeah, IP is correct here. Or you can do one more thing here. If you want to update the record faster, you have an option here. That is what? Notify. Go to the notify, select the following server and give the IP address of your backup server. That is 10.0.2. Click on validate. Click on OK. Click on apply. Click on OK. So notify is used for to update the records faster here. So click OK, but it's not compulsory. Now refresh the gmail.com zone. Now see here, records are updated. So we have this option. Okay. So now in our network, we have two DNS servers. One is yahoo.com primary DNS server, yahoo.com secondary DNS server, right? But in future, if primary zone yahoo.com is not working here, can we convert yahoo.com secondary zone to primary zone? Can we convert this yahoo.com secondary zone to primary? Yes. How? If you're saying yes in interview, the person is saying, sir, can we convert the yahoo.com secondary zone to primary? You're saying yes. The person will ask, sir, show me that. How to convert? So how to convert? Very easy option is there. Assume it one moment. My primary DNS server is not working. So go to the system to DNS server, backup DNS server, right click on yahoo.com secondary zone and click on properties. And you can see what is the type here? Secondary. So we have option change. Go to change and select what? Primary. And observe here. Once I click OK, is not asking any question, is not giving any error, is not asking there on which IP your existing primary is running. So easily we can convert it. So click on OK, click on apply, click on OK. So now this zone, now yahoo.com zone is converted to what? Standard primary zone. Now can we create the new host record? Yes, we can add the new host record. Can we delete the records also? Yes, we can delete. But assume it next day, my 10.1 primary DNS server is up. I want to make 10.2, right? System to yahoo.com zone back to the secondary. Can we convert primary to secondary? Yes, but you have to remember on which IP your existing primary is running. That is on 10.0.1. So right click on yahoo.com in system 2. Right click on yahoo.com standard primary zone. Click on properties, type, click on change and select what? Secondary and click OK. Now here, if I click OK, here it will ask the question on which IP your master DNS server is running. Means primary zone is running here. Okay. So once I click OK, it's asking, sir, type the master DNS server IP address. So we have to click on edit. We have to type the IP address of master server, that is 10.0.0.1. Click on validate. Accept it here. Click on OK. Click on apply. Click on OK. Now once you refresh this zone, so now you can see here yahoo.com zone is converted to what? Secondary zone there. Earlier primary, now is secondary here, right? So this option is available. So till now we have seen how to create the primary DNS server by using standard primary zone and how to create the standard secondary zones to make one system as a backup DNS server. Okay. Now come to the next zone. Write down the heading. Any question? Any doubt? So please write down our next one. Stub zone. Please write down what is the heading? Stub zone. So please write down stub zone concept is introduced from 2003 server operating system. Stub zone concept is introduced from 2003 server operating system. So means the stub zone concept is not available in previous server operating system. What are the previous servers you have? NT you have 2000 server. This concept is not there. It's available from 2003. We are using 2008. Now we are using 2012. Right. So next point, write down stub zone contained only these two records: SOA record and NS record. Stub zone contained only these two records: SOA, start of authority record, and NS record. Now the last class already we learned, right, what is SOA record contained and what is NS record. NS record contain domain name information, and your SOA record contain inside the zone how many number of files, which is the first file, means which is the first record, and what are the other records are available, number of records are available, number of files are available. That information is containing by SOA record, right? Now tell me, what is the difference between secondary zone and stub zone? Secondary zone is a copy to your primary zone, and secondary zone contain complete records of primary zone. In the primary, we have 5 records. In secondary zone also we have 5 records. In primary zone, we have 10 records. Yahoo.com primary zone, if you have 10 records, secondary zone also is having 10 records. But if I create Yahoo.com stub zone, if I create Yahoo.com stub zone in separate machine, so how many records will update from primary to stub zone? Only 2 records. In Yahoo.com primary zone, we have 10 records. In secondary also, Yahoo.com secondary zone also we have 10 records. But if I create Yahoo.com stub zone, only 2 records will update, right? SO record and NS record. So now tell me, Yahoo.com secondary zone, right? Sorry, Yahoo.com secondary zone contain complete information. Yahoo.com stub zone contain what information? Complete information or partial information? Partial. So that's why the experts are saying stub zone is called index zone here. It's also called what here? Index. Because index not contain complete information. Index contain only short information, only topic name and page number. That information is available. Now the question is what? When we require a stub zone here. So now tell me, all the world users will take the internet line from this ISP, from 10.1 system 1 ISP. Estimate the last class we taken the example, this ISP and this web server is hosted in USA, and this website is hosted over the internet, right? So any world user can access Yahoo.com website or not here. So example, as a user, I'm sitting in Hyderabad. So this is my PC. I'm purchasing the internet line from my ISP. So estimate this is my BSNL ISP, right? This BSNL ISP is having their own DNS server. Every ISP in the world is having their own DNS server, right? And this DNS server IP address is, example, I'm giving here IP 10.0.2, but in the real time you have different IP, and the preferred DNS address should be same. So now tell me, this ISP DNS server is a primary DNS server or secondary DNS server here? This is a primary. So that's why there is no requirement of alternate DNS address. So every ISP is having their own primary DNS server, and this primary from this ISP. So this user is taking internet line. So this ISP IP address will become preferred DNS for this client or not here? So that is 10.0.0.2. Now after that, and remember here, Yahoo.com website is not registered to this ISP. Is registered to which ISP? 10.1 ISP. Now the user is going to the browser, and the user is requesting for www.yahoo.com. So not only once I press enter, the first request will go to my local ISP, or the request will go to USA ISP of 10.1. The request will go to my local ISP. Who is my local ISP? 10.2 ISP is my local ISP. Request will go to. But what this ISP is to do? So first of all, tell me, the Yahoo.com website or all world website is registered to this ISP? No, it's not registered to this ISP. Yahoo, Gmail, MSN, Microsoft is not registered to this ISP. But still this ISP will allow to you to access all world website or not here. How is possible? It's possible by the help of first cache. It will check the cache memory, temporary is there on. If the cache is not there, then it will use forwarders, right? So remember here, forwarders automatically will not create. We have to create the forwarders, and how to create the forwarders, we'll see the lab, this one also, right? So forwarders means what? Forwarding the request to neighbor ISP DNS server. So this ISP DNS server also will do the same thing. It will check in his DNS server whether Yahoo.com information is there or not. If the website is registered, it will give the answer. If the website is not registered, it will check the cache. It will use the forwarder to forward the request to next neighbor ISP. And this ISP DNS server also will do the same thing. It will check whether Yahoo.com website is registered here or not. If it is not registered, by using forward to forward the request to next ISP. So whenever the request coming to 10.1 system 1 ISP, so on this ISP Yahoo.com website is registered or not here. So this ISP DNS server will give the answer. So this ISP DNS server will reply to this ISP, is giving the IP of Yahoo web server, that is 61.0.5. This ISP to this ISP, this ISP to this ISP, my local ISP, and my local ISP to my client. So my DNS server has resolved the name to IP by using forwarder, and after getting IP address, as a user, I will reach to Yahoo.com web server to access the website or not here. Yes, we can. So like this chain system is there. So all the world website is not registered to this ISP, but still this ISP is allowing to you to access all world website or not here. But here, how the request is going? By using forwarder from one ISP to other ISP, one ISP to other. Right now in the diagram, I'm drawing only 3 or 4 ISPs. Example, source is your machine, right? And destination is Yahoo server, Yahoo web server. But tell me, between source and destination, how many ISP DNS servers you have here? Right now in the diagram, how many ISPs DNS servers are? Only 4 is there. Our ISP, next ISP, next ISP, register ISP, only 4. But in the real time, only 4 ISPs are there between source and between destination server. No, we have more than hundreds of ISPs. So request going from one ISP to other ISP, one ISP to other ISP, you can access. But tell me, accessing is fast or slow here? Access is slow. But still, we can allow our users to access all world website which is registered to different ISP in the world or not here? Yes, this is the option, and ISPs are using this option here. Okay, but one day my boss is coming, is saying, sir, daily our users, right, working on project on yahoo.com website, and this website is not registered to our ISP DNS server, right? Daily users is working on yahoo.com website, right? And this website is not registered to our DNS server, is registered to other DNS server in USA, right? But my boss is saying, sir, please allow the user to access this particular website always fast. Allow our user to access this particular website always fast, not by using forwarder, right? So then what we have to do? Cache is temporary, sir. It's not permanent. Every 5 minutes, right? Your database will clear, cache will be clear. You have to add the database. Means you have to create the zone in DNS server. So what you have to do? Primary zone, you are saying. So please do one thing. Go to the USA first and tell to this administrator. Which administrator? This web server administrator. Tell to this web server admin, sir, I want to allow my users. I'm sitting in India. My company is in India. I want to allow my users to access your company website always fast. So please, sir, do one thing. Come to India and register your website to my DNS server, right? Register your website to my DNS server, right? Primary zone we have to create. Register it so I can allow my user to access your website always fast. So what this admin will say? Yes, sir, I'm coming to India to register. No, it will say, sorry, sir, I already have registered to one ISP in the world. So again, why we have to register once again, sir? Why I have to waste my money there, right? So it will not agree for you. So then what you have to do? Next option, you can take the help of stub zone. Take the help of stub zone, right? Now what we can do? If you want to allow our user to access particular website, not all in the world, we have billions of websites which is registered to different ISP. But this particular website, which is not registered to our ISP, I want to allow my user to access always fast. So for that purpose, we have to create the stub zone in our machine. But before creating stub zone, you have to collect the information. What information? Which website you want to allow the user to access fast? Yahoo.com. And is registered to which ISP? 10.0.0.1 ISP. These two things you have to collect, right? Now come to our DNS server, our local DNS server, right? Our 10.2 DNS server. Come to 10.2 DNS server and create the stub zone. Create the stub zone. When I'm creating the stub zone, is asking the zone name. So give the existing zone name. What is the zone name? Yahoo.com. And is asking the question, sir, on which IP address, on which DNS server this website has registered. Master DNS server is asking master DNS server IP address. So that we have to give 10.0.0.1. And after that, just click OK, right? Click OK. And after that, we no need to update the records. We no need to go to zone transfer. We no need to do anything. Just click OK. And after click OK, open this zone. Once you open this Yahoo.com stub zone, and in this zone, you can find automatically 2 records, SO record and NS records. Now tell me, these 2 records, to get these 2 records, we have to go for zone transfer? No, just we have to refresh and open this zone. And you can find these 2 records, SO record, NS record. Now tell me, SO record contain what information? Your domain name information. Sorry, NS record contain what information? Domain name. SO record contain what? Inside the primary, not in our zone. Inside the primary, how many records are there? Number of records. That information is available in SO record. So not only stub zone contain complete information or partial. Now see, primary zone contain what? All the records. Secondary zone contain what? All the records. But stub zone contain only 2 records. Only SO record and NS record. So now try to understand here. But remember here, stub zone is taking some space in our hard disk. It's taking some space in our hard disk. Okay. So next day, my user is typing www.yahoo.com. So once you press enter, the request will go to my local ISP. And this time for this website, my local ISP will not use this option. Which option? Forwarder. Because already my DNS server is having information of yahoo.com and partial information by the help of stub zone. And by the help of yahoo.com stub zone, by the help of these 2 records, my DNS server will not forward the request to neighbor ISP. My DNS server directly will forward the request to registered DNS server. That is called authoritative DNS server, 10.1. And 10.1 DNS server resolve the name to IP. And by taking this IP, my user can reach to the web server to access the yahoo.com website or not here. So not tell me accessing is fast or slow here. Fast here, always accessing is fast. But what about other website which is not registered to my ISP? Example, when my user is typing www gmail.com, or whenever my user is typing www.xyz, any website which is not registered to my ISP. So my ISP will use which option now? My ISP will allow the user to access, but this time my ISP will use what here? Forwarder. It will use what here? Forwarder to access. Only for this particular website, my ISP yahoo.com is using what here? Stub zone. Forwarding the request directly to registered DNS server. Registered DNS server is replying to my DNS server. I'm giving the answer to user. User can reach to web server to access the site here. Okay. So this is called what here? Stub zone. So when we require a stub zone, if anyone is asking to you, sir, when we require a stub zone, sir, in the world, billions of websites are there, and one particular website daily my user is accessing, and that website is not registered to my ISP DNS server, but I want to allow my user to access that particular website always fast. So for that reason, we are going for stub zone. But for other website, we'll use what option? Forwarder option. But can we create? Example, in interview, we'll ask this question, sir, billions of websites are there which is not registered to our ISP, but still I want to allow my user to access all these billions of websites fast by using my local DNS server. So can we create stub zones for billions of websites? No, it's not possible, sir. Why? Because two things are there. First of all, our hard disk should be big size. That much we are not having, right? Second thing is what here? We have to collect the information of all websites, names, and registered DNS servers. That is not easy for us in the real time, right? So that's why we are going for. Any doubt? But remember here. So for the stub zone, how many machines we require now? 3 machines. So in the lab, we require 3 machines, third machine. But right now, today, I am not having third machine in the lab. So I will do this practical in my system, 2 machine. But remember here, in which machine, if already we have primary zone, we cannot create stub zone. In which machine we have already secondary zone, we cannot create the stub zone. Option is not available. If you try, it will say that this zone is already existed. So we'll do one thing. Instead of yahoo.com, in system 1, 10.1 machine, I will create one new zone by the name of msn.com with SO record, with NS record, with host record, and with alias record. And I will go to the system 2 and will create the stub zone by the name of msn.com. But before creating stub zone in system 2, assume system 2 now is not our server, is a other organization ISP server. So in system 2, if I want to create a stub zone, we have to remove what here? Alternate DNS address, right? But if you give alternate, if you do this practical, that method and process is what here? Wrong. Because this time, assume the system 2 is the other ISP DNS server, is not our DNS server. Okay. So please write down our next lab, creating stub zone. So please write down in system 1, primary DNS server. In system 1, primary DNS server, open the DNS service. In system 1, primary DNS server, open the DNS service and create the new standard primary zone by the name msn.com and create new standard primary zone by the name msn.com. Create a new standard primary zone by the name msn.com with host and alias record. Create new standard primary zone by the name msn.com with host and alias record. Okay, so first I will complete this one. So I'm going to my system 1. This is my system 1 primary DNS server. Okay, so I will create new forward lookup zone. Right click on new zone. Right click on new zone and click on next and select primary zone, standard primary. Uncheck the last box, store the zone in Active Directory. Click next. And the zone name I'm giving here, msn.com. Click on next. Click on next. Select allow both, next and finish. So msn.com standard primary zone is created. But in that we require host and alias record. So right click on msn.com zone. Click on new host and give the web server name and web server IP address. And click on add host, click on OK and click on done. Now again, right click on msn.com zone, click on new alias, give here World Wide Web, and fully qualified domain name is system1.msn.com, and click on OK. So you can see here in system1 DNS server, we created msn.com stub zone, msn.com standard primary zone with host and alias record. So I will go to now, I will create the stub zone in my system2, right? So please write down in system2 computer, in system2 DNS server, in system2 DNS server, login as an administrator. In system2 DNS server, login as a administrator. Next point, write down assign the IP address and preferred DNS address should be same. Assign the IP address and preferred DNS address should be same. So it means there is no requirement of alternate DNS address. There is no requirement of alternate DNS address. Okay. If it is there, you have to remove it. Otherwise, your verification, your output is wrong there. Because I'm saying this is a other ISP primary DNS server. Okay. Now see here, I'm going to my system2 DNS server. This is my system2 DNS server here. Now I have to check the IP. So in this machine, IP address and preference address should be same, and there is no requirement of this alternate DNS address because this is the other ISP primary DNS server address. This is the other ISP primary DNS server. So click OK, close this one. Then after that, right now there is no msn.com stub zone here. Okay. So what I will do here, assume this command prompt is my client. This command prompt is my client, and this client is working for which server? For 10.2 DNS server. Okay. So assume this is a client which is working for 10.2 DNS server, and this client now is requesting for msn.com website. So it's typing here ping space www.msn.com. Not only once I press enter, the request will go to 10.2 DNS server or the 10.1 DNS server. 10.2 because this is a browser. This is a client of 10.2 DNS server. But tell me 10.2 DNS server is having any information of msn.com? Till now we not created the forwarders also. So now tell me what is the verification? What reply I will get? I will get reply or request timeout. Request timeout. So you can see once you press enter, is searching in DNS server, 10.2 DNS server, and it will give the answer, sir, this zone is not found here. We are not having. See here, pinging request could not be host www.msn.com is not found, is not available there. Okay. But this time I want to give the chance to my user to access this zone by using stub zone here, right? So please write down next line. In system2 DNS server, open the DNS service. In system2 DNS server, open the DNS service. Right click on forward lookup zone and click on new zone. In system2 DNS server, open the DNS service. Right click on forward lookup zone and click on new zone. Right click on forward lookup zone and click on new zone. Now once you click new zone, so write down click next. Click on next. Now once you click next, is asking sir what type of zone you require, primary, secondary or stub? Stub. So write down select stub zone and click next. Select stub zone and click on next. Select stub zone and click on next. So once you click next here, in next page, is asking zone name. So please write down zone name dash. Now tell me what I have to give, new name or existing name? Existing name. Zone name dash msn.com and click on next. Zone name dash msn.com and click on next. Now once you click next here, in next page, is asking here in next page, what is showing is a file. Remember here, this is a database file which is storing in your DNS server. It's taking some space. So write down click one more time next. Now once I click next here, in next page, observe here what is asking. Is asking, sir, specify the master DNS server address. So it's asking, sir, on which IP your primary zone is running. So that is 10.0.1. So write down, type the IP address of master DNS address. Type the IP address of master DNS server address. Type the IP address of master DNS server IP address. Dash 10.0.0.1. Dash 10.0.1. Click on validate and click next and finish. Type the master DNS server IP address dash 10.0.1. Click on validate and click on next and finish. So once you click next, once you click finish, so validate is accepted here. Then click on next and click on finish. So once you click finish, your job is done. And are you finding msn.com stub zone here? Yes. So now tell me, to update this two record, SO record, NS record, we have to do zone transfer from primary zone? No need. Automatically this record will be updated for you. So please write down verification. So write down verification. In system 2 DNS server, open the msn.com stub zone. In system 2 DNS server, open the msn.com stub zone. Open the msn.com stub zone. Open the msn.com stub zone and check the SO record and NS record. Open the msn.com stub zone and check the SOA record and NS record. So I'm not saying to get the records, right? I'm not saying to update the records. I'm saying just check the record. It's already updated. You can see here. If I open the msn.com stub zone here, right? Are you finding two records here? Yes. SO record, start of authority and NS. But actually in msn.com primary zone, how many records are there? 4 or maybe 5, maybe 10. But here it will show you only 2 records here. But check the verification. Now earlier when my client is pinging to 10.2 DNS server to reply www.msn.com is not giving reply. But this time will give the reply or not here. So now tell me, if I type ping space www.msn.com, the first request will go to which DNS server? System 10.1 DNS server or 10.2 DNS server? 10.2, because this is a client of 10.2 DNS server. But 10.2 DNS server will give the answer or not here? Yes. But reply will come from 10.1 DNS server, because the 10.2 is found in the request to 10.1. 10.1 is giving answer to this 10.2 DNS server and to client we are getting. Now see here. Now if I ping www.msn.com, I will get the reply from 10.0.1, not from 10.2. Are you getting reply from 10.1? Yes. But actually the request going first to 10.1, sorry, 10.2 DNS server, then 10.1. 10.1 is giving answer back to 10.2, 10.2 to client, we are getting answer. Okay, fine. So this is called what here? Stub zone. So till now, here, we have seen 3 types of zones. One is standard primary zone, right? And then standard secondary zone is a backup. Stub zone is a index zone, you can say, right? To allow the user to access particular website, we are going for stub zone. Now come to the last one. Write on the heading, Active Directory Integrated The next one, Active Directory Integrated Primary Zone. Active Directory Integrated Primary Zone. So please write down some points there. Active Directory Integrated Primary Zone is used in LAN domain model. Active Directory Integrated Primary Zone is used in LAN in domain model. So it means this zone is not designed for WAN. This zone is designed for LAN. LAN means your domain model, we can say, right? Now tell me, actually, why we have to go for domain model? To do easy and centralized management. Please write down one more point there. This zone contained service records. This zone contains service records. In bracket, write down 6 service records. Number 6. 6 SRV records, you can say, or service records. Okay, the next point, write down this zone information this zone information storing in this zone information storing in Active Directory database file. This zone information storing in Active Directory database file. So it means this zone information not storing in DNS database. This zone information is storing in Active Directory database. What is Active Directory database file name? ntds.git. So this zone is designed for LAN, is designed for domain model, and this zone contains 6 SRV records, and this zone information is storing in Active Directory database file. Okay. Now see here, what is the use of this zone? Why this zone is important? And remember here, this zone is too important for us. Without this zone, as administrator, we cannot work in the LAN. Without this zone, we cannot work in the WAN also, right? So this zone is very important for system admin. So we have to check what is the use of this zone. So first of all, this zone, Active Directory in primary zone, is designed for LAN for our domain model. But why we require domain model? To do easy and centralized management. So to design the domain model, we require at least one system as a DC, that is called server, right? And to make this machine as a server, what we are doing? In this machine, we require server operating system. Then we have to install Active Directory domain service and with DNS, right? And when I'm installing the Active Directory service, we require name to the server, and this name we are assigning by the help of DNS service, and I'm giving the domain name to my server is zoom.com. Okay, fine. Now try to understand here. Now one more thing here, very important here. When I'm making server, I require IP address or not here? So what is the IP? Example 10.0.1. Now tell me, what is the preferred DNS address? 10.0.0.1. Now tell me, why I'm giving 10.0.1 as a preferred DNS address here? Why I'm not giving 10.2, 10.3, 10.4? Why I'm giving 10.1 is the preferred DNS address? Because in this machine, DNS service is running. This machine also is called DNS server, and wherever the DNS service installed, maybe automatically or manually, that machine is called DNS server. Always this machine IP address and preferred DNS address should be same. So remember here, we are giving IP address, preferred DNS is same. Is reason is what? DNS service, not Active Directory service here, right? So remember, so this machine is my DC, is my primary server here. Okay. So now try to understand here, what is the job of Active Directory? If anyone is asking to you, sir, what Active Directory is doing? What is the job of Active Directory? So remember here, Active Directory is doing two works here. The first work of the Active Directory is what? Authentication and authorization. Authentication and authorization. Whenever any user is logging to any client machine, your Active Directory service is giving authentication and authorization. And your Active Directory contained network complete information. Your complete network information is going to store in Active Directory. All the servers, all the clients, all the users, user passwords, all the member servers, backup service information, tree domain information, forest domain information, trust between two different forests. This entire network information is storing in Active Directory, in Active Directory database, right? So this is the two functions. These are two jobs. Who is doing? Active Directory. First job is what? Authentication and authorization. Next job is what? Contain complete network information in server, in DC, by the help of Active Directory service here. Okay. Now what the DNS is doing? Now first tell me, DNS service we are installing or automatically installing here? Automatically. DNS service we are not installing, automatically installing with Active Directory. Now DNS also is doing two jobs here. The first job of the DNS service is what? By the help of DNS service, we are assigning the name, a unique name to the domain. Without name, we cannot configure the server. So example, I have given the domain name is what here? Zoom.com. Now try to understand second job of the DNS service here. So this DNS service contains zones. DNS is working by the help of zones. And inside this DNS service, so first of all, this DNS service we are not installing. This DNS service installing automatically. So inside this DNS service, one zone is creating automatically by our domain name. What is our domain name here? Zoom.com. Maybe in the lab, your domain name is different. By that name, automatically one zone is created. Now this zone, tell me, we are installing, we are creating or automatically created? Automatically created by the help of DNS service, by the help of Active Directory. So that's why this zone is called Active Directory Integrated Primary Zone, right? So this zone we not created. This zone is created automatically. That's why this zone is called what here? Active Directory Primary Zone. And this zone name is our domain name here. Okay. Now DNS contains zones, and zone contains records. Now the last class we discussed SO record, NS record, host record, alias record, MX record. These are the normal records. So inside this zone, all these records are there. SO record is there, NS record is there, we can create host, we can create alias record. But this zone contains some special records. This zone contained service records. This zone contain what here? Service. In short, you can say SRV. But how many SRV records, service record we have? Total we have 6. How many SRV records we have? 6. So if anyone is asking, sir, how many SRV records we have in active directory interprimary zone? We have to say total 6 SRV records we have, sir. Now, the last class I said that every record contain their own information. Like host record contain host name and IP information. SO record contain number of records, number of files information, right? NS record contain domain name information, right? Like alias record contain alias name. So like this SO record, right? Sorry, SRV record, service record also contain some information. What information? The 6 service records contained your DC information. The 6 service record contain what information? DC. So it means this 6 service record contain your DC. DC means your active directory information, on which machine, on which IP your active directory is running. Now try to understand. I'm saying our entire network information, all servers, all clients, all member servers, users, user passwords, everything, your entire network information is available in active directory. But active directory is information is available in 6 SRV record, and 6 service record is available in active directory into primary zone, and active directory in primary zone is available in DNS service. So it means your complete active directory information now is available in DNS service, in active directory in primary zone, by the help of 6 SRV records. So now tell me, this DNS service, this zone and these records are important or not? Yes, it's too important, because I'm saying the entire network information is available in active directory, but active directory information is available in DNS service in 6 service records here. So that's why these records are very important. Now tell me, this zone, these records we have to create? No, already is there. So how to know this one? Is there on in my DC or not? So you can see if I go to my DC, this machine is my DC also. How to know? Right click on computer icon, go to the properties. You can see this machine is my DC by the domain name zoom.com. If you want to confirm, open the server manager console. You can say we have a active directory service, and the same time with active directory DNS also is installed here, right? Now tell me, this DNS service we install or automatically install here? Automatically install. And you can see here, if I open the server manager console, if I open the DNS service, if I expand my forward lookup zone, right, are you finding one zoom.com zone here? And see the type. What is the type? Active directory integrated primary zone. And we have one more primary active directory in primary zone. The name is what? Underscore msdcs.zoom.com, right? So if you open this zoom.com active directory in primary zone, right, these are the normal records here. We can create, we can delete, right? But check these folders. Are you finding some folders here? These folders are called service records here. It's called what here? Service. And count how many folders we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But this one is created separately here. But later on, when you're creating once again, it will add it to this one. Okay. So how many service records we have? Total we have 6 SRV records here, right? And these 6 service records contain what information? Your entire active directory information, your DC information is available. Okay. So that's why these records are very important. But in case, right, I want to know what is the use of this record, how these records are working. Try to understand this one. Example, I want to make a machine as a client. I want to make a new machine as a client. So to make new machine as a client, first we require operating system. Basically, this machine is what here? Work group. I need IP address or not here? So I'm giving the IP address example 10.0.0.5. And preferred DNS also we require. Now tell me, what is the preferred DNS of this machine? 10.0.0.1. Now tell me, why I'm giving 10.1 preferred DNS to this client? The reason is Active Directory service or DNS service? DNS, right? So it means I'm not saying to this machine, Active Directory is running on this machine. I'm saying to this machine, DNS is running on this machine. Now this machine is work group. We have to join, and already we know how to join. So we have to right click on computer icon, click on properties, click on change settings, click on change, and we have option member of domain. Select the domain, member of domain, and we have to type the domain name or not here. So we have to type the domain name to join this machine to domain. So I'm typing the domain name is what? Zoom.com. So not only once I press enter, right, I'm telling to this machine, you have to become client of Zoom.com. But once I press enter, the request first will go to Active Directory service, or the request will go to first to DNS service. Tell me. The request will go to first DNS service, because the client is having information of DNS, not Active Directory. So once I press enter, the request will go to DNS service. Now in DNS service, first DNS service will search zoom.com Active Directory in primary zone is there or not. Is there? Yes. In that we have 6 service records. Yes. By the help of this 6 service record, DNS will forward the request to Active Directory, and Active Directory will accept this machine as a client in database. Then DNS is Active Directory is giving request back to DNS, and DNS to our new machine client, and then we are getting one message, welcome to zoom.com domain. So means successfully this machine has joined. So now tell me, your client configuration, your members server configuration is depend on your DNS server, is depend on your 6 SRV records. Like this, when I'm making backup server, I say give the alternate DNS address. When I'm saying making child domain, we are giving alternate DNS address. When I'm making NDF domain, when I'm making trust between 2 different forests, we are giving alternate DNS address or not. When you're making backup server, when you're making child domain, when I'm making NDF domain, when I'm making trust between 2 different forests, we are typing our parent domain name or not here, zoom.com. So it means that whenever you're doing any configuration of the server services, the first request will go to DNS. DNS to Active Directory. Active Directory will accept this machine in database, then request back to DNS, DNS to client, then this machine is successfully joined into domain there. Okay. So this is called configuration. But what about the logon services? So example, I'm creating some user accounts in my DC. Example, user 1, user 2, user 3. Now tell me, these user accounts, these user passwords are going to store in DNS database or is going to store in Active Directory database? Active Directory means accounts are available in Active Directory, but the user is trying to log into the client machine. The user is going to this client machine, system 5 client machine, is typing u1 @ zoom.com password. The user is saying, sir, my name is this one, this is my password, but my information is available in zoom.com Active Directory, so take the authentication from zoom.com Active Directory. But tell me, this client is having an information of Active Directory? No, the client is having information of DNS service. So once you press enter, the request will go to DNS, and DNS will check this zone, zoom.com. Okay, in that we have 6 service records. By the help of these 6 service records, the DNS will forward the request to Active Directory. Active Directory will check the account in database. If your authentication is granted, then request will come back from Active Directory to DNS, DNS to client, then successfully user is logged. So it means your logon services also is depend on your DNS service, right? Is depend on 6 service record actually here, right? So that's why the microservice saying here in the slide, here, your service records allowed DNS client to locate TCP/IP based services. So what is the meaning of TCP/IP based service? Any service which is running in your network, right, on IP address. So it's depend on service records here, like logon service, joining the domain, configuration is depend on DNS service. And if the DNS service is there, if 6 service records is there, then these are the features. What are the features we have? A domain controller need to replicate the database, means DC and ADC replicating the data from DC to ADC and ADC to DC. So first it will check, right, whether you have DNS service or not. In DNS service, whether we have 6 service record or not. So first the 6 service record will update. So then the replication will take place here. Next is what we have: a client searching Active Directory. A client searching Active Directory means a machine, a user, right? A machine I want to join into my domain. I want to join a new machine into domain. So first is searching Active Directory, then is allowing to me to join this machine to domain there. Okay. Next is what? A user attempt to change the password. The user is changing the password, but the user is not coming to server to change the password. User is changing the password by sitting on client machine, but this password has to update to Active Directory database, right? And first request going to DNS, DNS to Active Directory, then database updated. The last one is administrator want to modify the Active Directory. Administrator want to create new backup servers, new child domains, trust between 2 different forests, right? We require what here? DNS service. We require 6 SRV records. So it means your entire network services are depend on Active Directory in primary zone. But assume it, if some of the students are asking this question to me, sir, I want to know what type of errors we are facing when this zone is not there, when this 6 service record are missing, if it is not there. So please do one thing. If you want to know the error, go to the DNS service and don't remove the DNS service. Just delete this zone. Which zone? Zoom.com Active Directory in primary zone. Now once you delete this zone, what is missing? 6 SRV record. And if 6 service record is missing, what is missing in DNS service? Active Directory information is not available. Okay. So now take the new machine and try to join into domain. Can you join? No. Try to log in as a users. Users are there in server in Active Directory, but try to log in as a user. Type the correct name, correct password. Can you log in? No. So it means your entire network is down, right? So how to up the network? Example, your junior admin by mistake is deleted this zone. Then what we have to do? First check the domain name. What is the domain name? Zoom.com. Go to DNS service and create the zone by same name. But the type should be what? Primary. And the type should be what? Active Directory integrated primary zone. Then give the domain name same and create the zone. So once you create the zone, automatically the records are back to you, right? And really, in the real time, so many times we face this problem. We are facing if the DNS zone is missing or records are missing, right? You cannot log into any client machine. You cannot join this machine to domain. So we have to create back here. Okay. So we'll see the practical now today how to create Active Directory integrated primary zone. So please write down our next lab. Creating Active Directory integrated primary zone. Creating Active Directory integrated primary zone in DC. Remember here, this zone we have to create only in DC. And please don't try to create this zone in member server. Don't try to create this zone in workroom machine, because we cannot create this zone in workroom machines. We cannot create this zone in member servers. We have to create only in DC in our server. Creating Active Directory integrated primary zone in DC. But first we have to delete this zone, then we have to create or not here, because already we have. So right now my domain name is zoom.com, so zone name is zoom.com. But in the lab your domain names are different. By that name zone is there, like MCSC.com or CCNA.com, CCNP. You have to check and you have to check in this zone 6 SRV record is there or not. If it is there, delete it. So please write down first note in DC DNS service. In DC DNS service, first delete the Active Directory integrated primary zone completely. In DC DNS service, first delete the Active Directory integrated primary zone completely. Okay. First delete the Active Directory integrated primary zone completely. So see here, I'm going to my DC. This is my DC and this is my DNS service. And in that, what is my domain name here? Zoom.com. By that name, I have Active Directory in primary zone. So first we have to delete or not here. How to delete? Very easy. Right click and delete. Say yes, yes. Zone is deleted. And delete this one also. _ms dcs zoom.com. Right. Now the Active Directory in primary zone is deleted. Right. Now I want to create back to up my network there. So write down next line. In system1 DC, login as admin. In system1 DC, login as admin. Open the DNS service. In system1 DC, login as admin. Open the DNS service. Right click on forward lookup zone and click on new zone. Right click on forward lookup zone and click on new zone. Right click on forward lookup zone and click on new zone. So once you click new zone, one new window is open. So write down, click next. Now once you click next, now tell me what type of zone we have to select. We have to select first what? Primary. With primary we require this option or not? Yes, because I want not standard primary zone. I want now Active Directory in primary zone. And this zone information is storing in Active Directory database. So write down select primary zone. Select primary zone. And check the box store the zone in Active Directory, and check the box store the zone in Active Directory. And check the box store the zone in Active Directory. Okay. Then after that write down 2 times next. Then write down zone name dash. What I have to type? New name or existing domain name? Existing domain name, remember. So write down zone name dash zoom.com. But in the lab, your domain name is different, that you have to type. Okay. Zone name dash zoom.com. Then after write down 2 times next and finish. Next, finish. Your successfully zone is created. You can go for verification now. So it's very easy to create Active Directory into primary zone. Okay. Now try to understand here. If I uncheck this box, store the zone in Active Directory. If I click next, this zone is called standard primary. And what is asking here? Zone name. But try to understand here. If I check this box, if I click next, what is asking here? It's not asking directly zone name. It's asking what here? Active Directory zone, replication scope. So we have three options here. Try to understand one by one. I will read this one. So if I start from last one, to all domain controllers in this domain, which is running on 2000 operating system. So example, I have primary DNS server, right? If I select this option, so I have some backup DNS servers, but these backup servers are running on 2000 operating system. So this zone information will update to my backup DNS server. But some backup servers, DNS servers, are running on 2003, 2008, 2012. So this zone information will not update it, right? But I want to update this zone information to my backup servers. Some backup servers running on 2000, some backup server is running on 2003, some backup server is on 2008 or 12. I want this zone information has to update to all backup servers which is running on different operating systems. So then we have to go to the second option. So what is the second option? To all DNS servers running on domain controller in this domain zoom.com, right? So if you have backup servers on different operating system, this zone information will update here. But remember here, this zone information will not update to other subdomains in the forest. Means in child domain, this zone information is not there. In grandchild domain, this zone information is not there. In NDF domain, this zone information is not there. But if you want, this zone information also has to update to other subdomains which is running in the forest. Then we have to select the first option. What is the first option? To all DNS servers running on domain controller in this forest. Under which forest here? Zoom.com. So if I select the first option, this zone, zoom.com zone, information also will update to other subdomains, DNS servers, right? This one, okay, which is the best now? So according to our requirement, that is the best one. So I will go for the default one, but according to your requirement, you have to select, okay? So I'm going for default one, second one, click on next. So it's asking the zone name. I have to give the zone name, zoom.com. Spelling should be correct there, okay? Then click on next, select allow both non-secure and secure dynamic update option, click next and click on finish. So successfully zone is created, right? So write down verification. In DC, open the DNS service. In DC, open the DNS service. In DC, open the DNS service. Next point, write down. Open the zoom.com. Open the zoom.com Active Directory Integrated Primary Zone. Open the zoom.com Active Directory Integrated Primary Zone. Open the zoom.com Active Directory Integrated Primary Zone and check the 6 service records. Open the zoom.com Active Directory Primary Zone and check the 6 service records. Now tell me, these records we have to create or automatically is updated? We don't need to create this, and we are not having option to create also there, okay? So you can see here, once you open this zoom.com Active Directory Integrated Primary Zone, you can find all the 6 service records are updated or not here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 service records are updated. But sometime in the real time or in your lab also, you're getting this problem. Everything is fine. I created the zone. The steps are correct. But when I'm checking the records, I'm not getting 6 service records. I'm getting some records, like 2 records, or I'm not getting any records, right? Then what we have to do? We have to go for some troubleshooting here, right? So please write down note. If 6 service records are missing, if 6 service records are missing, if 6 service records are missing, restart these 2 services. If 6 service records are missing, restart these 2 services. Restart these 2 services. First one, write down DNS server. Second one, net log on. Restart DNS server, and next service is what here? Net log on. These 2 services we have to restart. Then come back to this zone and refresh. You will get back all the records here, right? Now see here, how to restart these 2 services here? Go to DC. Please 1 minute here. Go to the DC and open the server manager console, go to the tools, and you can see if you come down here, are you finding services here? We have to open the services. In services, there are so many services are there, right? But which one we require?
Yes.
Restart that one only. Don't restart or restart others. So which one we require? If you come down, we can find DNS server. Right click on DNS server service and restart. The next one what? If you come down, you can find net logon. So right click on net logon service and click on restart. Okay. Now after that, close this one and open the DNS service and refresh this Active Directory integrated primary zone. Once you refresh, now all the records are updated. So please, in the lab, if these records are missing, some records are there, some record is not there, or records are not displaying, you have to restart the services. Okay. So till now we have seen what is DNS server, and in that we discussed what is standard primary zone, what is secondary, what is stub, and what is active directory. Now tell me, every zone is having their own functions or not? So please, if you want to completely understand what is DNS, you have to understand these zones. Don't mix up all these zones here. Separate these zones and understand what is the job of standard primary zone, what is the job of secondary zone, what is the job of stub zone, what is the job of active directory primary zone, then you can understand. Okay. Now come to the next two labs, small labs are there, write down the heading. Types of forwarders. Types of forwarders. First one is conditional forwarder, working by the help of domain name plus IP address. Remember here, working by the help of domain name plus IP address. Working by the help of domain name plus IP. Two things we require: domain name we require and IP we require. Next is what? Forwarder. Only forwarder. Forwarder is working by the help of IP address. Only IP address we require. Okay. So two types of forwarders are there. One is called conditional forwarder, working by the help of domain name plus IP. Don't write short DN. You have to write domain name plus IP. Okay. And forwarders are working by the help of IP address. Now first question is what? Why we require these forwarders? Why we require these forwarders? When we require these forwarders? Take the help of this diagram and tell me why we require forwarders here. All the world website is not registered to my ISP. Right? Example 10.2 is my ISP. This BSNL is my ISP. All the world website is not registered to my ISP. But still I want to allow my user to access all world websites or not here. Right? So we have to go for forwarders. And remember here, where the website is not registered, then we have to create the forwarder. Forwarder means next neighbor ISP address. Okay? And by the help of that we can allow. But here, assume it. In this practical, all the websites are registered to this ISP. Which ISP? Different ISP in the world. But we have two options here. The microservicing, we have two options. One is called conditional forwarder and one is called forwarder. So conditional forwarder means what? In the name itself is written conditional forwarder. Forward the request with our condition on our restriction. So example, over the internet, billions of websites are there, which is not registered to my ISP. But I want to allow my user to access some websites, not all, right? So what I will do, I will go for conditional forwarder, and in conditional forwarders, I am giving the information. I want to allow my user to access this zone, this website. Which website? Yahoo.com. And it's hosted on which IP? Is hosted on 10.1 IP, right? So next time my user is typing www.yahoo.com, request will go to my DNS server. And by the help of this conditional forwarder, I will forward the request to my 10.1 ISP, and 10.1 ISP will give the answer to me. I will reply to my client, and the client will reach to web server to access the site. Okay, yahoo.com is accessed, but what about the Gmail? What about other website like www.msn.com or www.microsoft.com or www.xyz, any website? Can my user access these websites? No. So it is, I'm giving conditions, right? Example, today you're purchasing internet line from your ISP, right? And your ISP is saying, okay, sir, you have purchased the internet line from me. That is very good. But sir, you can access only one site, yahoo.com. You can access only one site, yahoo.com. Now tell me, next month, you will continue internet line from this ISP? No. So that's why this option we are using in corporate networks. We are using in corporate. In our private network, if you want to restrict some right? If we have our own primary, if we have our DNS server, and through that I want to allow the user to access some websites, not all, so we have to go for condition forwarder. But tell me, if you purchase the internet line from ISP, from BSNL ISP, and now tell me all the world website is not registered to BSNL ISP, but still he's allowing to you to access all world website or not here. How is possible? It's possible by the help of this option. Which option? Forwarders. Forwarder means is running by IP address. So what we have to do in forwarder, we have to give our neighbor ISP IP address. We have to give what here? Neighbor ISP. So whenever my user is typing yahoo.com, Gmail, MSN or XYZ anyone, the request will go to my ISP. If the web information is not there, by using forwarder, I will forward the request to my neighbor ISP. And if this neighbor is not having information, forward the request to next neighbor. But anyhow, we'll give the answer to our clients to access all these world websites or not here. Yes. So not only if you're working as an administrator in ISP network. So which option is best? Conditional forwarder is best or forwarder is best? Why not conditional forwarder? Say conditional forwarder. So can you gain the business? No. So that's why you can see when you purchase the internet from any ISP, is allowing to us to access all world website or not here. So that's why the ISPs are going for forwarders. But we'll check both, how to create conditional forwarder and how to create forwarder. So for this practical, we require 2 machines at least. So assume in system 1, we have all the zones here. System 1 is a registered DNS server, Yahoo, MSN, Gmail. And in system 2 is the other ISP DNS server, right? And here there is no zones. By using conditional forwarder, by using forwarder, I will allow my user to access this one. So remember here, in interview it will ask this question. Sir, why we require forwarders? When we require forwarders? So give the answer. Sir, whenever the zones are not registered to my ISP DNS server, but still I want to allow my user to access all the zones, all the website, then we have to go for forwarders. I can go for conditional forwarder, I can go for forwarder. So where we have to create the forwarders? Where the website is not registered, there we have to go to create the forwarders, right? So please write down. First, conditional forwarder. Creating conditional forwarder. Okay? Creating conditional forwarder. So first, what we have to do? In system 1 DNS server, we require some zones with host and alias record. Already we know how to create this one. So write down in system 1 DNS server. In system 1 DNS server, create some standard primary zones. In system 1 DNS server, create some standard primary zones with host and alias record. In system 1 primary DNS server, create some zones in system 1 DNS server, create some standard primary zones with host and alias record. Example, yahoo.com, gmail.com, msn.com. If already is there, that is good. If it is not there, you have to create it. Okay. So you can see here, I'm going to my system 1 DNS server first. This is my system 1 DNS server. Already we have some standard primary zone Yahoo with host and alias. Okay. And we have Gmail also with host alias. We have MSN also with host and alias is there. Okay. Now leave this one. This is called registered DNS server. Now come to the system 2 DNS server. And assume this system 2 DNS server is the other ISP DNS server. Other ISP primary DNS server. So first what we have to do, we have to delete all these secondary zones and stub zones are not here. Because if already is there, so it means this is my premises. I am saying this is the other ISP DNS server. So please write down note. In system 2 DNS server, remove all the secondary zones and stub zones. You can say remove or you can say delete also. Remove all the secondary zones and stub zones. For this practical, please in the lab, the system 2 is not your premises DNS server, is the other ISP primary DNS server. So we have to remove all these secondary zones and stub zone. One by one we can delete, at a time we cannot delete. So right click on this zone, delete it. Right click on Gmail zone also, secondary zone, delete it. Right click on yahoo.com, secondary zone, delete it. And clear the cache. How to clear the cache? Right click on system name, SYS2 and click on clear cache. It's very easy, you can clear. Or we can clear through command also, but I will give you just, see this one, I will give you the command, then you can note down. So my clear cache has what? Clear. And assume this is the other ISP. But remember here, in this ISP, IP address and preference address should be same. If you have alternate, we have to remove it because this is other ISP, primary DNS server. Okay. Now tell me where we have to create the condition forwarder. We have to create where the website is registered. There we have to create where the website is not registered in the ISP. We have to create where the website. So it means we have to create the condition forwarder in system 1 or system 2. In system 2. So please write down in system 2. Open the DNS service. In system 2, open the DNS service. And you can see in the list, are you finding condition forwarder in the last one? Yes. So write down, right click on condition forwarders and click on new condition forwarder. Right click on condition forwarders and click on new condition forwarder. But please, before creating this condition forwarder, I will do one thing. Assume this command prompt is a user. This command prompt is a user and which is taken the internet and from this ISP. From which ISP? 10.2. So if I type here ping space www.yahoo.com. Now tell me, the request will go to which ISP first? 10.2 ISP or 10.1 ISP? 10.2, because I have a client of 10.2 ISP here. So once I press enter, now check, are you getting reply or not? Are you getting any reply? No, because till now we not created any forwarders. So that's why this ISP is saying, sorry sir, website is not registered, I cannot allow to you to access. But I want to serve this service, yahoo.com zone. I want to allow the user to access this zone by using conditional forwarder. Okay. So what you have to do, right click on conditional forwarders and click on new conditional forwarder. So once you click this new conditional forwarder, one new page will open. And what is asking? Observe here. Once you click new condition forwarder, is asking two things. First is what? DNS domain name, and is asking IP address of master server, means where the zone is created, right? So write down DNS domain name dash yahoo.com. DNS domain name dash yahoo.com. The next line, write down IP address of the master server. IP address of the master server dash 10.0.0. What? Where the zone is created, on 10.2 machine or 10.1 server? 10.1. So IP address of the master server dash 10.0.1. Click on validate and click on OK. Click on validate and click on OK. Don't worry about this error, right? So click on validate and click on OK. So your condition forwarder of yahoo.com is successfully created. Then write down verification. In system to open the command prompt. Assume this command prompt is one user. Okay. In system to open the command prompt and write down this one. Type ping space www.yahoo.com. Press enter and check the reply. Open the command prompt, type ping space www.yahoo.com. Press enter and check the reply. Now tell me, you will get the reply from which IP? 10.2 or 10.1? 10.1 you will get, but actually the request is not going to 10.1 DNS server. The request is going to 10.2. By using condition forward 10.2 for the request 10.1, from there we are getting the reply. You can see here now. This time, are you getting the reply? Earlier we are not getting reply, but now we are getting reply from 10.1. Okay, yahoo.com is pinging, but what about the other sites? If I ping to other sites like ping space www.gmail.com, now tell me, my DNS server will allow to me to access this one? No. If I ping to MSN, it will allow to me? No, it will say, sorry sir, I cannot allow, only yahoo.com, right? But the ISPs are not doing like this. The ISPs are using this option. Which option? Forwarders, to allow the user to access all world website which is not registered to us. Still we can access or not here? Yes. So please write on next lab. Creating forwarders. Creating forwarders. Okay. So when we require forwarders, where we require forwarders? Where we have to create forwarder? Where the website is registered or where the website is not registered? Where the website is not registered. So where we have to create, in system 1 server or system 2 server? System 2 only. So please write down. In system 2 server, open the DNS service. In system 2 server, open the DNS service. Then write down, right click on system name SYS2. Right click on system name SYS2 and click on properties. Right click on system name SYS2 and click on properties. Right click on system name SYS2 and click on properties. Now see here, we are in properties of system 2 DNS server.